The pencil snapped in half. Marcus Thompson didn't even look up from his sketch pad as the teenagers laughed. One of them had kicked his coffee cup, sending brown liquid splashing across his worn combat boots. The same boots that had carried him through 3 tours in Afghanistan. "Look at this loser," sneered Jake, a college kid with perfect teeth and a trust fund, drawing little pictures like a 5-year-old. Marcus's hand trembled slightly as he reached for another pencil from his battered case. The tremor wasn't from fear. It was from the shrapnel that had torn through his shoulder in Kandahar, leaving nerve damage that would never fully heal. "What's wrong, Grandpa? Can't draw a straight line?" Another kick sent his pencil box tumbling across the concrete. The small crowd of onlookers in Central Park grew larger. Some pulled out phones, others whispered behind cupped hands. A few laughed openly at the 52-year-old man hunched over his drawings, his gray beard unkempt, his jacket patched and faded. Marcus kept drawing. "This is what happens when you don't get a real job," announced Sarah, a young professional in designer heels. She was live streaming to her followers. "Sitting in parks all day. Playing with crayons." The comments flooded in. "Pathetic. Get a life. Taxpayer burden." Marcus's pencil moved steadily across the paper. He was sketching the memorial fountain, but his version showed something different, something the casual observers couldn't see. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to move along," said Officer Rodriguez, approaching with reluctant authority. "There have been complaints." Marcus looked up for the first time. His eyes were gray like winter sky, and there was something in them that made the officer pause. "I'm not breaking any laws," Marcus said quietly. "You're disturbing the peace, making people uncomfortable." The teenagers high-fived each other. Sarah's livestream hit 1,000 viewers. The crowd murmured approval as Marcus slowly packed his supplies. As he stood, a gust of wind caught several of his sketches, sending them tumbling across the grass. The crowd scattered to avoid them, as if they were contaminated. No one helped him collect them. This wasn't the first time. 3 weeks earlier, Marcus had been escorted out of the library for loitering while reading military history. The week before that, he'd been asked to leave a coffee shop because his sketching made other customers nervous. At the homeless shelter where he volunteered, even the staff treated him with barely concealed pity. "Maybe you should consider something more practical," the director had suggested. "Art therapy is fine, but you need real skills." Marcus had 63 rejection letters in his backpack, gallery owners who wouldn't even look at his work, art schools that returned his applications unopened, publishers who called his military sketches too intense or unmarketable. His sister called every month. "Marcus, you can't live like this forever. Mom and Dad left you that money for a reason. Get an apartment. Get therapy. Stop this hobby." She always said hobby like it was a dirty word. The rain started at dawn on the 7th of December, Pearl Harbor Day. Marcus sat on his bench anyway, hunched under a torn umbrella, trying to keep his latest sketch dry. It was different from the others, more detailed, more urgent. "You've got to be kidding me," groaned Tom, a daily commuter who'd grown tired of seeing Marcus. "It's pouring rain and this nutjob is still out here." Tom's voice carried across the empty park. He pulled out his phone and started recording. "This is what mental illness looks like, people. Guy thinks he's some kind of artist. Been doing this for months, completely delusional." The video went viral within hours. Number Park Artist Guy, trending on 3 platforms. The comments were brutal. "Someone help this man. This is sad. Why doesn't someone just throw him out?" Marcus watched his umbrella collapse in the wind. Rain soaked through his jacket, smearing the edges of his drawing. For the first time in months, his hand stopped moving. He looked at the sketch. 3 years of work, hundreds of drawings, all leading to this moment. Maybe they were right. Maybe he was delusional. But someone had been watching. Colonel Patricia Hayes had been taking her morning run through Central Park for 2 months. Every day she passed the man on the bench. Every day she noticed something new. The way he held his pencil, the precision of his strokes, the subjects he chose. Most people saw a homeless man with a sketch pad. Colonel Hayes saw something else. She saw the perfect military posture, even when he was sitting. the way his eyes constantly scanned the perimeter, the muscle memory that never dies. And she saw his drawings. On the 8th of December, she stopped running and approached his bench. "Excuse me," she said quietly. Marcus looked up, expecting another complaint, another order to move along. "I'm Colonel Hayes, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers." She showed her identification. "I've been watching your work." Marcus's pencil went still. "That sketch you're working on," she continued, pointing to his latest drawing. "That's the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. But you've drawn it from an angle that shouldn't be visible from ground level." The air between them grew thick with unspoken understanding. "How do you know that perspective?" she asked. Marcus closed his sketchpad slowly. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you," he said. "Try me." For the first time in 3 years, Marcus looked directly at another person. Really looked. Colonel Hayes saw the intelligence in his eyes, the pain, the weight of secrets. "I designed it," he said simply. The words hung in the morning air like smoke. "I designed 17 major memorials across the country. The Korean War Veterans Memorial, the Vietnam Women's Memorial, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier renovation. I spent 28 years in the Army Corps of Engineers before I transferred to Special Operations." Colonel Hayes felt her pulse quicken. "My team and I," Marcus continued, "we weren't just soldiers. We were architects, combat engineers. We built forward operating bases in hostile territory. We designed defensive positions that saved thousands of lives." He opened his sketchpad to a page filled with technical drawings, blueprints that looked like art, but were actually military engineering at its finest. "After my discharge, I couldn't let go. Every memorial I see the flaws, the security vulnerabilities, the structural weaknesses. So I sketch solutions, improvements, ways to honor the fallen while protecting the living." Colonel Hayes studied the drawings with growing amazement. These weren't the doodles of a delusional man. These were the work of a master engineer, a silent guardian still protecting his country, one sketch at a time. "What's your full name?" Colonel Hayes asked, though she was beginning to suspect the answer. "Major Marcus Thompson, retired. Combat engineer, Special Operations Division." The name hit her like a thunderbolt. "The Marcus Thompson? The ghost of Kandahar?" Marcus flinched at the old nickname. "I hoped people had forgotten." "Forgotten? Sir, you're a legend. The mobile bunker systems you designed saved over 3,000 lives. The bridge construction techniques you developed are still being taught at West Point." Colonel Hayes pulled out her phone and made a call that would change everything. "General Morrison? This is Colonel Hayes. I need you to sit down. I found him. I found Marcus Thompson." 20 minutes later, General Morrison's voice crackled through her phone on speaker. "Major Thompson, this is General Morrison, Commander of the Army Corps of Engineers. Son, we've been looking for you for 3 years." Marcus's hand began to shake again, but this time, it wasn't from nerve damage. "Sir, I'm not—" "You're not what? Not a hero? Not the most brilliant combat engineer in modern military history? Major, your disappearance after discharge has been classified as a national security concern. Your designs are still saving lives in active combat zones." The story exploded across every major news network within hours. The Crazy Park artist was Major Marcus Thompson, recipient of the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Purple Heart. The man who had revolutionized military engineering. The soldier who had saved more lives through his designs than most generals saved through their strategies. Tom, who had made the viral video mocking Marcus, stared at his phone in horror as the truth emerged. The comments on his post had shifted from mockery to outrage directed at him. "I mocked a war hero," he whispered to his wife. "I called him delusional." Sarah, the young professional who had live-streamed his humiliation, watched her follower count plummet as people discovered her role in the story. Her own video had become evidence of how society treats its heroes. The teenagers who had kicked his supplies scattered to their dorm rooms, hoping no one would recognize them from the crowd that day. But the revelation was bigger than anyone imagined. Marcus's 3 years of meaningless sketches weren't meaningless at all. They were a complete security assessment of every major memorial and monument in the United States. A one-man survey of vulnerabilities that could be exploited by terrorists or foreign agents. The Department of Homeland Security confirmed that 17 potential security threats had been identified and quietly corrected based on observations that matched Marcus's sketches exactly. He hadn't been drawing pictures like a child. He had been protecting America, one sketch at a time. The ceremony took place at the World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. The same memorial Marcus had been sketching when Colonel Hayes found him. Defense Secretary Williams stood at the podium, flanked by generals and cabinet members. The media filled the plaza, but Marcus only had eyes for the small group standing in the front row. His sister crying openly. His former squad members flown in from around the country. Colonel Hayes beaming with pride. And scattered throughout the crowd, many of the people who had mocked him in the park. They came not to mock, but to apologize, to bear witness to their own blindness. Major Marcus Thompson, the Defense Secretary announced, has spent the past 3 years conducting the most comprehensive security assessment of our national memorials in American history. His work, performed without request or compensation, has directly contributed to the safety of millions of Americans. The Distinguished Service Medal gleamed against Marcus's dress uniform as it was pinned to his chest. But today, we're not just honoring his recent service, the Secretary continued. Today, we're announcing the Marcus Thompson Institute for Combat Engineering, which will be established at West Point to train the next generation of military architects. The crowd erupted in applause that echoed off the stone walls of the memorial. Marcus stepped to the podium, his sketch pad in his hands, the same battered pad that had been kicked across the park months earlier. "I never stopped serving," he said simply. "I just changed how I served." He held up his latest sketch. It showed the memorial exactly as it stood that day, but with one addition: a small plaque honoring the homeless veterans who slipped through society's cracks, protecting us even when we don't know we need protection. "This is for every soldier who came home to find that home didn't recognize them anymore," he said. "We're still here. We're still serving. We're still watching." The silence that followed was profound. Then, one by one, the crowd began to stand. Military personnel first, then civilians, then everyone. Even Tom and Sarah, tears streaming down their faces, rose to their feet. The standing ovation lasted 7 minutes. As the ceremony ended and the crowd dispersed, Marcus returned to his bench in Central Park. But now he wasn't alone. A steady stream of visitors approached throughout the day. Veterans who recognized a kindred spirit, artists who understood the power of observation, children who wanted to learn how to see the world through different eyes. The park officials installed a small bronze plaque near his bench, in honor of those who serve in silence. Marcus still draws every day. But now, when people see him, they don't see a delusional man with a sketch pad. They see exactly what he always was: a guardian, a protector, a silent sentinel, keeping watch over the country he loves. The pencil moves steadily across the paper. The eyes scan the horizon. The mind catalogs threats and solutions. Major Marcus Thompson, still serving, still protecting, still drawing the world as it should be, one sketch at a time. The mockery has become reverence. The humiliation has become honor. The forgotten soldier has become an unforgettable legend.